Awesome. So yeah, so we're just going to jump into our next chat right away. It's going to be called "The Future is Permissionless." It's going to be with a couple people from the BadgerDAO team. So I'll invite them on now. Yeah, so we've got Spadaboom in the corner, and then we've also got Will from the team. So I'll let them do a quick little intro about the talk, and yeah, I'll let them take it from here.
Sweet. Thanks, Jacob, and thanks to the HackMoney team. Great event today, and great to hear lots of the other protocols involved speak. Yeah, today, if you haven't guessed already, we're both contributors at BadgerDAO, myself and Spadaboom. And needless to say, we're really excited about the future of the protocol of decentralized finance and where it's trending towards permissionless. So, the word decentralization is tossed around a lot. It exists within sort of our namesake, being BadgerDAO. It spans across many different aspects as it pertains to our business. But the area that we're choosing to focus on today is really focused at the smart contract level. So yeah, we're hoping to dig in a little bit to a permissionless future, why we're excited about it, how Badger is trending towards this, and what this means for the future. So Chris, why don't you start us off by sort of digging into what permissionless really means at a smart contract level, and how perhaps decentralization isn't actualized in reality at the inception of a project, but it's more sort of an intention to improve towards over time.
Yeah, sounds good. Hey, everybody. Thanks for teeing it off, Will. I want to really hit on that last point and start there, because I feel like there's a misconception in general around anybody launching anything on Ethereum, assuming that it's pretty much decentralized, from the get-go. A lot of the times, smart contracts specifically, and then let's talk about, the DeFi space in particular. When you launch these smart contracts, there could be a variety of different parameters and controls around them that involve a human. People have obviously heard, the term EOA, for example, or multi-sigs. These are all just different ways to have certain types of control and mechanics in a smart contract. So you can have a smart contract that's deployed, that does a certain thing, but the entire smart contract can be changed because it's been tied to, an individual. When it relates to different parameters around a smart contract, a lot of the times they can be affected and changed by human intervention. And it requires a lot of human involvement for the smart contracts to operate in a certain manner as well. And that goes against really the nature of why smart contracts were actually created. And that's the point that I wanted to really focus on today, is when we say the future is permissionless, it's really about what the journey looks like for DeFi protocols and for anyone developing and deploying smart contracts on Ethereum, to be able to have this progressive decentralization and eventually get to the point where you have immutable smart contracts that are permissionless in nature and enable, if it's users or individuals or anyone, to leverage those contracts and be able to have complete autonomy around putting their capital, as an example, into a DeFi protocol and isolating their capital as part of that specific contract, and or having the ability to dictate exactly what they want that smart contract to be doing for them, and them only, as an example. So that's really when we talk about the future of permissionless. And I think, speaking about Badger in particular, if you look at our protocol, for those who aren't familiar, Badger has a variety of different products that was built and released. Our most popular product is a vault product that enables anyone to earn interest and earn yield on their Bitcoin and their Bitcoin deposits across Ethereum and a variety of other side chains. And those vaults, have managed billions of dollars, and those smart contracts have managed billions of dollars. And they've been live on mainnet, many of them, for over a year. And even still, there's certain parameters and controls around certain parameters and controls around how those smart contracts actually progress from being completely progressing to being completely immutable. And if you think about the risks that come with different parameters in place, like the risks associated with having something controlled by an individual or a multi-sig, or a 2 of 3 versus a 5 of 7 multi-sig, or things along those lines, it changes the risk parameters for that specific contract and for the people actually using it. So you need time to obviously mature and be on mainnet for a period of time, be battle tested, obviously go through a variety of different audits before it can even get to the point where you can think about making it more immutable. But I'll stop there for a second. I wasn't sure if, Will, you wanted to dig deeper there or jump into something else.
No, that was a great intro, Chris. Yeah, maybe, obviously from our perspective, the best examples come from within. So maybe you can take us down the road a bit on Badger's journey from inception, I guess December of 2020 at this point, and how we're kind of working towards this, and some of the stuff that we're really sort of doubling down on from a deep tech perspective to make this a reality.
Yeah, sure. So as I mentioned just briefly, we launched in December of 2020 with our Vault product, where it enabled anybody with tokenized Bitcoin to deposit it in these Vault strategies. These smart contract-based strategies would take different LP tokens, like a Curve LP token, for those who are familiar, and it would do different things with it to generate yield. And the primary, in the beginning, at least, those initial strategies, the primary functionality was to take Curve rewards that are being earned by the LP, sell them for the underlying position, which was Bitcoin, and then auto compound those back for the LP. So it takes the work out of the LP having to claim those rewards, and saves them in gas and time, and obviously time to actually do the auto compounding. And that was really the core value proposition, of those vaults. And those vaults in the beginning, of course, and I think this is the nature of DeFi, but being at the current state of the market with DeFi, when contracts are deployed, if there's quite a bit of excitement around the protocol and the protocol launch, very quickly there is enormous amounts of capital that are deposited and touching these smart contracts, as that happened with ours, with the contracts that were deployed by Badger, which within the first couple of months there was billions of dollars there. And if you think about any type of, regardless of how much you prepare and audit and review and do everything leading into a mainnet deployment and having it in production for anybody to leverage and use, it's next to impossible to get the type of maturity in that contract and have it be battle tested enough to be ready for that type of capital. And that's where certain levers and certain controls around the smart contract and around the parameters of that smart contract, for example, upgradability, actually in Badger's position, actually reduces the risks and better manages the risks, the risk parameters, because if there was an issue or something needed to be changed because of the immaturity of that contract, it could be upgraded through appropriate governance, through the token holders, through the community. But just having that capability is very important in those early stages. Now, as that progresses and becomes more battle tested and those strategies get better leverage and they're in production for a longer period of time, then you can get to a point where you can remove that upgradability. You can make these contracts more immutable. And then, the other side of that, and I think this is really the basis of the conversation around permissionless nature, when creating those contracts, BadgerDAO contributors and developers are designing what those strategies are in the smart contract. So when you deposit a token into that contract, what that contract actually does with that token is defined, and those parameters are detailed by the developers. And again, that's another level of, I guess you could say, control and risk management, and we see that with a lot of protocols today. And again, over time, once those strategies have been deployed across a variety of different LP tokens on the same platform, leveraging the same staking mechanics, testing out different things like auto compounding versus optimizing those rewards by taking them and selling them for a percentage of, Bitcoin and ETH and stable coins versus just auto compounding, you can get to the point where anybody can actually dictate what they want the vault to do and the protocol to do with their deposits, and have the ability to actually deploy these themselves and manage the different functions associated with that contract, like harvesting and doing things along those lines. And that's when you get to the point where you have complete autonomy and complete self-custody. And that's where, we're really trying to go, with the Badger protocol, is moving from being an app where, different contributors dictate strategies, deploy these vaults, users come to the app and deposit into those specific vaults and strategies, to more of a base layer protocol where anyone can build on top of our underlying tech, and they can permissionlessly deploy their own vaults with their own strategies for their own capital, and manage that really themselves without, of course, that's the whole point of the smart contract. It brings that automation without actually having to manage it, but being able to do that themselves and then build on top. You think about all the different opportunities that can come from applications and other protocols building on top of yield and vault strategies like that. The opportunities become endless. So that's where we started. We started with vaults with more control, more human controls around the smart contract for risk mitigation, to removing those controls, but still having human input around what those actual strategies do, to a point where anyone can deploy those strategies and dictate what the strategies do, and have a level of or have complete self-custody around those vaults and build on top of the protocol themselves.
Yeah, so I think it's fair to say, right? And, at inception, for the most part, you need some level of human intervention. Decentralization isn't fully realized. At that point, it's more of a well-intended thing that can kind of trickle down into other aspects, right? I.e. governance, doing your best to sort of source decisions or involve token holders in those larger decisions. So there's sort of like a decentralized decision-making process to an extent, but rather the intention is behind building the tech towards what becomes this permissionless thing into the future. So I guess that's it's a bit of an on-ramp into where do you see this taking us, the tech in general? I think from what you've said so far, the opportunity for Badger really lies in being this really strong foundational layer one. And like you said, you have to battle test. You have to take time to build the right smart contracts. You have to test them. You have to make sure they work. It would be silly to think that you could put immutable contracts out there right at the gate. So I think this is a great approach. But where we are today to where we're going in 6 months to 12 months from now, where do you see this having the most impact for not only Badger but potentially the DeFi ecosystem as a whole and beyond that?
Well, I think what's important is, like, this is our, a lot of the contributors that have worked at Badger. This is the collective's I don't want to say goal, but it's more like, this is at least how we believe there should be a progressive state of decentralization. That doesn't mean it's right, doesn't mean it's wrong. It's how the contributors kind of push things forward at Badger. And I know many other protocols actually see it a different way and actually deploy mutable contracts from the get-go with limited upgradability and things along those lines. But nonetheless, I think it's important just to speak to that. speak to that those specifics, right? It's there is no right or wrong. As it relates to the next 6 to 12 months, I think we're going to see more and more of this. We're going to see more protocols mature, further refine, and build better tech protocols in the past. As they've matured, those protocols changed quite a bit, and they get to a point where the smart contracts themselves are living and breathing organisms doing their own.
I think you cut out there, Chris. You're just on mute.
Oh, sorry. I just said I apologize. I was for cutting out. I'm not sure what's going on, but what was the last point? What was the last point that it cut out before? Well,
you were just talking about the future potential for other protocols looking to build on top. Where we're going with that?
Yeah, it's less about Badger. I think just more in general, we're going to see more and more protocols mature, the tech mature, and these smart contracts that are living in production, removing more of those guardrails, right, and becoming things that there is enormous amount of confidence for other people, other protocols, and in turn other contracts to build on top of and build with. And that's the journey that we're intending to be on. We want really anyone that's any individual or any protocol that's looking for unique reward management and composable yield strategies that want to have the ability to dictate almost like a factory, what LP asset, where that asset's potentially going, what the but yeah, I guess I'm not sure where it cut up, but the point that I was trying to make, or what I was saying was, really we want any protocol and any even individual that's looking for the ability to customize and tailor their yield strategies and have confidence in the underlying security and the underlying management of those strategies to be able to build on top of Badger and again, like have that level of customization around what the strategies are actually doing versus maybe potentially having the ability to integrate an existing strategy or vault, for example, which people probably heard the term of, and instead actually dictate what that vault does. I think that's really what we're trying to progress towards, and we're trying to build, tech around to enable that, because we're not there yet. Some of the tech that we use, we leverage some off-chain functionality for the purpose of distributing rewards, optimizing those rewards. As an example, if the yield strategy is to take a curve LP and to put it into convex, you would then be earning two sets of rewards, CVX and CRV. And to then what you do with those rewards is really what and this is obviously just a basic yield farming strategy, but that what you do with those rewards is really the layer that we're talking about here, because you could take those, sell them back as most do, but instead if you can take 26% of one of the rewards and sell it for a stable coin that is then automatically deposited into another LP position and staked to earn more, and then 44% that's doing something with a different asset, that level of customization. And if you think about how that expands in the future when it's not just basic yield farming strategies, from large DAO treasuries to apps that have specific functionalities that they're specific features that they're trying to offer to their users, like maximizing XYZ or a self-repaying loan like Alchemix, for example. Being able to have that level of customization, I think, just opens up a whole new world of opportunities. And ideally, as we continue to build that out, we can obviously build confidence in the technology because of its of its overall history and production and the security posture of it, but as well give the ability for these new protocols and new applications to come up with really cool use cases to what to do on top of that without having to have that level of domain expertise, knowledge, and workload, resource allocation, actually do the yield management part of that stack.
Yeah, for sure. It makes sense, and it kind of paints a clear picture, right? And from I guess from our angle, from Badger's angle, is the future is really double down on the tech and focus on building this sort of permissionless opportunity for folks and other protocols to build on top. And obviously, in doing some of that, you obviously take some human intervention touch points out of the process, which I guess could be good and bad. But at the end of the day, the reason we're a sponsor of HackMoney is to hopefully work with some great individuals looking to build with Badger and in decentralized finance. What do you think the future Spada looks like for those who want to contribute and the future of sort of building with Badger? Because it feels like if in general the ecosystem moves in this direction, it's definitely going to be very tech heavy with a lot of opportunities to continue to innovate and build towards the future.
Yeah, I think things like HackMoney are so fantastic because it gives an opportunity for builders to come together and collaborate with really just other builders that may have protocols that have been built that are looking for more eager builders to come and build on top of or integrate with or just collaborate with. So I think naturally in the DeFi space and in you want to talk about the culture within DAOs is to just get involved, right? And if you look at what for this hackathon in particular, one of our lead developers, Alex, he's done a great job putting together a mix of.
Oh, we lost Chris. Yeah. Oh, there he is. You were just talking about Alex.
Yeah, I was just saying that Alex has done a great job at making it easy for anyone to start building on Badger and to get up to speed relatively quickly on our code base and how everything works and the different ways to actually start building today with a variety of different examples, regardless of someone's experience building in this space, building in DeFi or not. And I think what's important is it should be easy for anybody to start building, and that's as much like what you're actually building on top of as is the tools that enable someone to start building quickly. So I feel like we've worked really hard, especially over the last 6 to 8 months, to make those tools more accessible. And as part of this hackathon in particular, I feel like there's a really good way to get started and to kickstart things. So I'd encourage anybody that's looking to build anything around Bitcoin, looking to build anything around automated yield strategies to dig in and help us work towards this place where yield strategies are completely permissionless, almost like a factory where anyone can choose what goes in, how it comes out, has the ability to deploy it themselves, and have that complete level of autonomy. So
yeah, for sure. I think this idea of a permissionless future is a good mantra, right? Like getting involved in decentralized finance or working at a DAO is a very permissionless endeavor, I would say, right? Jumping in, taking the plunge, bringing something to the table, and then just building the future together. So I think that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I guess we can close things off, Chris, with just like we're excited to be a part of HackMoney. We've got some great prizes up for grabs. If you hit the prize page, we've got a lot of resources. We've done our best to sort of put in enough content to make the process permissionless for you to get involved. And yeah, I guess we can wrap there, Chris. It's been a great chat, and I'm excited for the future, and I'm excited to just keep building and meet some new folks as they come through the door.
Same. Super pumped.
Awesome. Thank you, folks. We still have a couple more minutes. I was wondering if I could maybe ask a question from the audience on this.
For sure.
Spadaboom, you mentioned sort of this like kind of framework of progressive decentralization of DeFi apps, and going from, humans can intervene to humans can intervene via governance, and then even maybe as far down the road as like burning the key. I wonder what your thoughts are on protocols in general, like what the role is for protocols in actually kind of educating the people who are using their contracts on maybe what stage they're at, or maybe the ecosystem in a general, kind of setting some standards for sort of giving people more predictability on what kind of level of decentralization they're interacting with.
I think it's critical. I think, transparency is, the highest standard across the board that we want to uphold, not saying we as an industry. So when anybody's interacting with these contracts, they should have a level of understanding of how decentralized or not decentralized they are, and which stage and path of that journey those protocols are on, and that smart contract in particular, those smart contracts are in. And that in itself, and the willingness to be transparent, I think, is like that first, flag, right? I think we should be moving to a place where if the humans behind the protocols that are building them and building these smart contracts aren't open to bringing transparency at that level, that in itself should be something that would make a potential user that's interacting with that contract weary. So I do agree that it should be something that is highly transparent, and I think as an industry we can and we should be doing a lot better at this, because there is a lot of ambiguity, and there's we hear the term aping. There's a lot of aping going around, not bored aping, but like legit aping, and there is a lot of money that's being put into these contracts and being used nowadays versus a couple of years ago. So now more than ever, it's important that the users that are interacting with them have an understanding of what they're actually interacting with.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you both for your thoughts and your questions and the talk of the last little bit. We appreciate you taking the time to chat with us for HackMoney. And thanks again for Badger's support. And like you said, feel free to take a look at the prizes and also the tech behind Badger and how you can use it in your hacks. Thanks so much, folks.
Thanks for having us.